Hello. Today I'd like to talk about following my dream and not somebody else's dream. And choices. Choices in life. And whether you can go back and make different choices. Well, you can't really go back in time. But can you undo some choices that were already made? I don't think you can do that either, but in a way you kind of can. So I'm going to talk about that in this video. I think this also has echoes to our society and civilization as or humanity as a whole. So I'll start off with the individual me. So I'm 41 now. I would say I spent the majority of my life living someone else's dream. Whether it's my parents' dream or the American dream or the dream of material wealth and success in today's modern society, Western society. Majority of my life I've been living someone else's dream. And this phrase that I'm saying of living my own dream and not someone else's dream actually comes from one of my professors in residency. I had a professor. He taught me how to do spine surgery. Well, one of them. There were several professors that taught me how to do spine surgery, but one of them. It was towards the end of residency. I was maybe a year from graduating neurosurgery residency. And I had the choice of going to a very prestigious fellowship in Toronto to work with a guru of functional neurosurgery. Very, 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 very smart man who was leading up a whole team of very smart people doing research on brain stuff, brain-machine interfaces, and also using sound to do surgery. So high-intensity focus ultrasound, where you can actually lesion part of the brain with sound waves. It's pretty crazy to think about. So you don't even have to cut open the head. You just very, very precisely focus sound waves to cause cavitation, which destroys part of the brain. And you can help someone with like tremors. No cut involved, no radiation, just sound energy. That's pretty crazy. Well, I had the choice of going up there and living in Toronto. I think I was going to get paid, I think it was like $50,000 a year to live in downtown Toronto for 2 years. Or I could take a private practice job doing spine surgery. Mostly spine surgery. And I was going to pay like a lot more than that. Like a lot more. And I was talking to my professor, the spine surgeon guy. And I was telling him I was thinking about taking the private practice job because it was going to pay more, and I didn't think I could live in downtown Toronto on $50,000 a year. At that time, my wife wasn't working. She was still in school. And he said, hey, don't live someone else's dream, live your own dream. And he's like, the truth of the matter is, nobody really cares about what you do. After you graduate this residency program, no one's going to think about you. They might for a few minutes or seconds, but that's it, because people are just so focused on their own lives. So don't worry about it. Just live how you want to live. That was some pretty good advice. Live your own dream, not somebody else's. Well, I had been living someone else's dream, I think, for almost my whole life. I didn't really want to become a doctor initially. There was a lot of pressure from family. Like my dad's a doctor. Being a Asian in America, son of immigrant parents, there was a lot of pressure to be a doctor or a lawyer or something like that. Got to have a successful job and high-paying salary and a respectable position. But not just from my parents, from society too. Society makes this pressure that, oh no, you can't be the guy that drives the garbage truck, even though that is like an absolute necessity to our society. You can't be the guy that drives the garbage truck. No, you're not going to be respected, and you won't get paid a lot of money. You got to be a doctor or a lawyer or a basketball star. Well, I'm terrible at basketball. And soccer, I was really bad at soccer too. There was one time when I must have been like third or fourth grade, I was in a soccer team, but I would end up just like standing there and like looking at the clouds. And one time my goalie, the goalie on my team, kicked the ball, and like I wasn't paying attention, and it like hit me in the head because I wasn't paying attention. Like I just didn't see the point of like running back and forth like over and over and over and over again. Now I like running now, but back then I was like, I just wasn't really into soccer. So with soccer and basketball, stardom out of the possibilities, my possibilities to achieve this American dream of wealth and prestige narrowed down to doctor or lawyer. And since my dad is a doctor, he didn't like lawyers very much, and so that narrowed it down to being a doctor. Well, I spent 19 years of my life being a doctor. Actually, I still am a doctor, I'm just not practicing. So I spent 21 years of my life being a doctor, but 19 years actively doing it. And what did that get me? Well, it did get me a very comfortable salary, very high paying salary for the the years after residency. During residency, you don't get paid very much. And medical school, you don't get paid anything. You're actually paying lots of money to get educated. And it did bring prestige and respect. But at what cost? At what cost to my soul? Yeah. That dream wasn't really a good dream. Ended up taking care of people in a way that really, I don't think really, I mean, it helped some people, but not a lot of people. Well, most people that I saw, I couldn't help. The tools of Western medicine aren't very good. I've made lots of videos about that, so I'm not going to talk too much about that. But the gist of it is, the most powerful thing that can heal somebody is themselves. What they eat, how much they sleep, how much they exercise, what kind of exercise they do, how much sunlight they get. Do they take care of themselves emotionally, mentally, psychologically, spiritually? Do they have connections and loved ones? Do they repress their emotions? Are they truthful to themselves? Are they connected to themselves? That's really the most powerful way to heal. Way more powerful than any pill or surgery. Yeah. Well, I saw Jim Carrey say a quote that he said, I don't remember the exact quote, but it goes something like this. He says, I wish that everyone could become rich and famous someday to realize that that's not it. So it's something like that. That's the quote. Well, I feel like I reached both of those things. I was rich. I was making a ton of money. But I hated my life. I hated what I was doing. I didn't feel like I was actually helping people. I mean, I was helping some people, but really, they needed to help themselves. But a lot of people didn't want to. And when they would get worse because they didn't want to help themselves, they would blame me because I tried to help them, but my help was limited because really, if someone doesn't want to help themselves, you can't help them, no matter how hard you try. But they can blame you for trying to help. It was horrible. Money wasn't worth that. Money wasn't worth that psychological burden. Spiritual burden, really. Both. And then just a very weird thing happened is that I was making nature videos, and then I decided to talk about that psychological burden and walking away. And then I became YouTube famous. That was not on my bingo card of life. I never wanted to be famous. Well, fame has its own set of problems. This is what Jim Carrey was talking about. Some people think, oh, I just wish I was famous. I wish that everyone knew who I was and knew how fabulous I was or I am, and I wish everyone knew how amazing I am as a person. Well, let me tell you, people don't really care. And people think they know you, but they don't know you. There's a whole phenomenon called parasocial, where you develop an attachment with somebody who's on TV or YouTube, and you think you know them, but you don't. You don't really know them. It's weird. It's weird. It's a very weird phenomenon. When I meet people these days who don't know me from before, but know me through YouTube, it's very strange because they think they know me, and I have no idea who they are, but they don't really know me. They just know what I said in the YouTube videos, which I do share a lot of my personal thoughts and musings, and so I guess they do kind of know me. But I'm more than just these YouTube videos. And there are things that I don't share in these not music. There are things that I don't share in these videos that are personal, that they don't really have a reason to be shared, or I don't want to, or I can't because of YouTube censorship. I mean, there are a lot of things that I would like to say that I can't say. Oh, and not just YouTube censorship. I don't want to. I don't want to say something and then somebody wants to kill me. It's not worth it. So I am not these YouTube videos. The YouTube videos has a part of me in it, but I am not. That's not the full me. But it's weird because it even affects my. It even affects like my friends that I'm like that I've known from before, but like I'm not that close. And then they think they know me, but they didn't really know me. And it just makes the interaction really strange. Well, and then also people show up and like they just want to talk to me. But like I don't have time to talk to everybody. It's like physically not possible. Like I have barely enough time to do what I want in my life. Like I want to. I got a distortion pedal for the bass guitar, and I had a lot of fun making the last music video where I was playing the guitar and singing, and then I layered on top of that a lead guitar part going bing 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 bing. And it was a lot of fun, and then it got me thinking about layering song with guitar and bass guitar. But my bass guitar, my guitar has distortion effects, but the bass guitar doesn't. So I got a bass guitar distortion pedal, and I'm figuring out how to record all of this stuff on the computer and put drum tracks to it. And then I can sing or maybe rap. Maybe. Bet you didn't see that one coming. Gooby rapping. But I think that's going to happen. I got so many things I want to do. I don't got time to talk to everybody. There's when I was in high school, my friends and I, we would like to take instrumental tracks of like rap songs, like Dr. Dre's Next Episode, and then create our own lyrics to the tracks, and then we would. Yeah, so that was something that I did as a kid, and that was really fun. I want to do it again. All right, so how did I get to there? I'm talking about living my own dream. Oh yeah, I was talking about how getting money and being famous is not all that. It's not it. It's empty. What really matters in life? Well, having some money matters in this society because you got to feed yourself and have shelter. But having a ton of money doesn't. I think there's some kind of study that it's like there's like a happiness sweet spot of like income. I think it was like, well, this was back in 2000. Early 2000 teens. I think the study was saying like people are happiest when they make, I think it's like $80,000 a year salary. But like if you make less than that or you make more than that, you become more unhappy. And I remember having a professor who he invented something that was bought for like tons of money by a drug company, and I remember him. Well, he was probably the wealthiest, probably the wealthiest surgeon in the hospital, and I remember him saying how unhappy he was after he became so wealthy. And he said that he was so much happier when he had his beat up truck and didn't have that much money. There's something to that. There's definitely something to that. Having a bunch of stuff, whether it's like a big house or a bunch of fancy cars, it doesn't bring happiness. Some people think it might, but it doesn't. At least not to me. Maybe it does to some people, but I don't think it does. And fame is really weird. Distorts relationships. I'm not that famous, but I'm kind of internet, YouTube sort of famous, and it really is strange. So that's not it either. So what really matters? What really matters? Well, what really matters to me now is the health of my body, mind, and soul. That's what really matters to me. And the community of loved ones that I care for, and they care for me. If my body is not healthy, if I'm sick, or if I'm in pain, or if I can't move the way I want to move, or I can't think the way I want to think, well, that's getting more into mind and soul. But in my body, if my body's not well, nothing else really matters. If my mind is not well, if I'm horribly depressed or psychotic or spiritually, if I've gone into a really bad place, like I became narcissistic and psychopathic and Machiavellian, like a dark triad. If I've gone down that crap hole, then nothing matters really, because then I'm living in hell. Well, I'm not going to talk about hell because I don't want to get into religion. If my body's not healthy, if my mind's not healthy, and my soul's not healthy, then I'll be suffering way more than I need to in this life. And I only live once. YOLO. You only live once. I don't want to live once and suffer the whole time. Now, suffering is part of life no matter what, but there's more suffering and less suffering. I don't want to suffer like intensely the whole time I'm on this rock that's hurling through space in this Milky Way galaxy in the universe. Like, if you think of it that way, we're just some life forms that are walking around on this round rock, that sphere of rock that's hurtling through space. What's it really matter? Now, I know some people will get all religious and stuff. Now, on this channel, a lot of people write comments about religion, and I understand why, because I talk about things like this, like what's the matter in life. But I grew up in a fundamentalist Christian family, household, and state. Grew up in Oklahoma. And I don't think that's I think that way of thinking perpetuates a lot of trauma. I'm not saying it's wrong for someone to believe it, but I think that particular way of thinking perpetuates a lot of trauma in life, in someone's individual life and collectively as a community. So yeah, I don't think that's the way either. But health is health of the body, mind, and soul, and community. Having loved ones that you love and they love you too. If they don't love you, and love, what I mean by love is wishing for the well-being of another person or being. It doesn't have to be human. It could be a dog or a tree or a forest or birds or orca whales swimming in the ocean. If the other being does not have love or your well-being in their heart, you don't need to, you can still love them, but you don't need to be closely intertwined with them because you'll get hurt. Even if, this is something that I learned, that someone can say they love you, but their actions speak otherwise. And I think it can be very confusing if someone says that they love you, especially if they're supposed to love you, like they're a family member. Like there's some societal expectation that they're supposed to love you, and then they say they love you, but then they do things that hurt you. That's very confusing, very traumatizing. You don't need to be around those people. You don't need to have them in your life. You can just be around people that actually love you and do things that show that they love you. And you love them too. And you do things that show that you love them. That's a healthy community. I think that's important. So health of the individual body, mind, and soul. Health of a communal body, mind, and soul. Those are important. But how do you know what's the dream that you want to live? So it's easy to say, hey, that's someone else's dream that I've been living, and I don't want to do that anymore. That's like the first step. Say, whoa, wait a second. I've been living this dream that really is not my own dream. It's like some idea that got in my head because my parents or society or media or advertising or peer pressure, the culture, something got these ideas in my head, and I thought, I need to make a lot of money, and I need to have a big house. I need to be some politician. It's easy to get to the point. Well, it's not easy, but it's easier to get to the point where you say, wait, this is not what I want to do. This is some set of values that doesn't match with me. It's harder to say, this is the dream I want to do. That's harder. It's harder than realizing the first thing. The second thing is harder. How do you figure out what dream to pursue? Because there's an infinite number of choices in life. Now, as you get older, past choices have constrained the choices available to you. So when you're younger, when you're a child, your choices are also constrained by your ancestors and the society as a whole. But you still have more choices than when you're on your deathbed. When you're on your deathbed, you don't have very many choices left before you die. But when you're a child, you have more choices. Well, as you get older, you get more constrained by the choices that you already made. But you can still choose. I don't know if there's an infinite number of choices still, but I guess there might still be. Well, I'm not sure. It's an interesting question. But how do you figure out what kind of dream matches you? Well, I think in my experience, learning to listen to myself and trust myself was like the key. I'm not saying I have things figured out, but I think I've made some choices that have led to me being much happier and healthier, and choosing healthier relationships too. And that started by listening to myself. You can call it intuition, but really, I think intuition kind of confuses things. I think listening, no, this sounds really cliche, listening to your heart. Literally, it's like listening to yourself. What's yourself telling you? How do you feel about what you're doing? How do you feel about what you're thinking about? How do you feel about what you just did? How do you feel about what you're about to do? I got really good at ignoring myself and not trusting myself. I got really good at thinking that my feelings trick me and aren't accurate, that I shouldn't trust them. And that led me down a series of choices that made me miserable. But when I started to listen to myself and listen to how I feel and think, I'm feeling this way probably for a good reason. What is that reason? Why do I feel this way? Why do I feel horrible doing a job where I should be feeling great because I'm helping people, I'm making a lot of money, and I have prestige from it? Why do I feel so bad? I think that's when I started making choices to course correct. So I think it is possible to course correct to some extent. I can't go back in time to when I was 18 years old and tell myself, hey, little gooby, don't go to medical school. Trust me, man. It's not worth it. Do something else. Listen to yourself. Like, I can't go back to the 18-year-old me in college and tell myself that. Because it already happened. I can't go back in time. I'm not a time traveler. At least with this body. Maybe with my mind I could be a time traveler. Because I think time is kind of strange. Maybe that's another talk. I'm going to have to remember that one. Talking about time. I think time's very strange. It seems to go in one direction, and it seems to unfold with the future not set. But is it? Or are there multiple futures? Yeah, okay. That's gonna get really off topic. But I think that you can. Well, I guess it is on topic because I think you can course correct somewhat, and I think that it gets you into a different future. I think there's probably an infinite number of futures, and you can kind of choose which one you're going into. I don't know. Maybe that's not true, but it kind of feels that way. But maybe not. I don't know. I think it's impossible to know because you're only in one reality. Now is the only reality that you're in. So it's impossible to know if there's an infinite number of different nows existing somewhere. The only existence I know is now in this universe. But yeah, if you listen to yourself and trust yourself, and you make choices based off of trusting yourself and your feelings, I think it can lead to a much healthier life with less suffering. Not no suffering. There's still suffering. Life is full of all kinds of different feelings: happiness, sadness, pain, joy, fear, peace. No, all these different feelings. Just part of being a living creature walking around on this rock hurtling through space. But there's different lives we can choose. Now, let's see here. So listening to myself, when I started listening to myself, well, I started eating differently. I realized that the food I ate and the things that I drank really affected me, how I feel, and how I healed, and whether my body was functioning right or not. And then the things I did: exercising, sleeping, the types of media I consume. All those things affect me. And the people that I'm around and I choose to be around, they affect me too. And the values that I hold to myself, they affect me. The beliefs I have, the way I see the universe, the way I see humanity, it all affects me. I can choose a lot of those things. I can't choose a a lot of things, like the way physics works, the way civilization has destroyed this planet and is destroying itself. I didn't choose that. I didn't choose that the way we live is based off of fossil fuels that are running out, and the way we live is slowly cannibalizing itself. I'm witnessing that right now in the deteriorating quality of life. I never thought I'd be renting this long. I thought I was going to get a house, but there's these corporations that buy up houses and jack up rent and make it unaffordable for people to live. Wages stagnate compared to inflation, and but I think it's all related to, number one, resources running out, energy running out, easily accessible fossil fuels running out, and then greed of people trying to hoard wealth. And in our economic system, it's set up for greedy people to hoard things. But even if you got rid of the greedy people and this system that allows greedy people to hoard things, like corporations and billionaires, even if you got rid of that, it still wouldn't change the fact that easily accessible fossil fuel energy is depleting rapidly. And there's a ton of people on this planet. There's 8.2 billion people, all using those finite resources that are running out. So I didn't choose that. Now, collectively, humanity chose that. So I'm part of humanity. So maybe I was part of the collective decision to do this. But now going from an individual dream, well, I still want to talk a little bit more about the individual dream, and then I'll go to the collective dream. Individual dream. So I want to be healthy, body, mind, soul, and in my community of friends and family and doggy family. And part of that is being creative and expressing how I feel. Making videos, making music, writing lyrics. I've really tried writing prose, but I'm not feeling it. I've had 3 different starts to a novel, and I get to the end of chapter 2, and then it's just I'm I have much more fun making a video or playing music or writing a song. There's some other things that I have in mind that I'm going to do that are not related to this channel, but I want to keep it separate, so I'm not going to talk about it on this channel. But I have another project that I want to do that brings me a lot of joy to think about doing. I don't know if it actually will bring me joy doing it. I think it will. But I got another project that's not writing a book. It's something similar to this, but it's a different kind of thing. Those are my dreams. Now, I'm not making money like a neurosurgeon. Being a YouTube content creator doesn't have a prestige of being a neurosurgeon, but that's okay. I'm much happier doing this. Much happier being creative and expressing what I think and feel, and having fun. having fun doing this, having fun making music and writing lyrics, and this other project I think it'll bring humor into my life. This channel is more like philosophical musings or just stream of consciousness talking. But this other project that I want to do is, I think, will bring some humor. It brings, yeah. So, those are my dreams. Those are the dreams for me. Doesn't apply to other people. Only it applies to me. You have your own set of dreams that applies to you and your situation and your thoughts and your feelings and your values and your connections with your community and your connections with yourself. Everyone has their own dream. A lot of people don't listen to their own dream and they don't follow it. A lot of people don't even listen to themselves. They don't trust themselves. But you can. You can listen to yourself. And if you listen to yourself over time, I think you'll realize that you can trust yourself because you're actually trustworthy. The thoughts and feelings you have are worth listening to. Now, some people might think, well, what about the crazy people? You know, the crazy people that like serial murderers or like narcissists and egomaniacs and psychopaths of the world. Are they really trusting themselves? Are they really listening to how they feel inside? I don't think so, but maybe they are. I don't know. I'm not them. But I would suspect that they're not really trusting themselves because I think in order to hurt people like narcissists and egomaniacs and psychopaths do, you have to shut off your part of yourself, the empathy. Maybe they don't have empathy to begin with, but I think just being human, everyone has some level of empathy, and you can shut it off if you want. So, yeah, I don't think that they're listening to themselves. Which, nice segue into the collective dream. As a whole, as humanity, we've made many, many, many choices to come to where we are now. And right now, things are not working well. We have a civilization of 8.2 billion people on this planet that's circling around the sun. We're the third planet circling around the sun. And we live in a biosphere of life forms that live off of the energy of the sun. I guess tube worms living in the bottom of the ocean live off the energy of the earth through the geothermal vents, but the majority of life forms live off of the energy of the sun. Sun energy comes, plants soak up the energy, animals eat the plants, animals eat other animals and plants. Fungi decompose dead plants and animals or parasitize off living plants or animals. There's bacteria, but everything comes from the sun. Nearly everything comes from the sun. We are part of that, and we are effing it up big time. Really effing it up. I mean, really, really, really effing it up. Like, so bad. Like, If we got a report card, we'd get an F minus, if there's even such a thing. F minus for effing it up. Well, we've made collective decisions over many, many, many generations, for thousands of years, to live this way. And this way is effing it up for everybody, except for maybe tube worms and tardigrades. Probably still effing it up for tardigrades. I don't know if humans will be around. I don't know if humans will be around in a couple hundred years, because temperatures are changing so quickly. In fact, they're accelerating. The change is accelerating. Humans, our minds, are not really good at understanding exponential changes. I brought this up in a video before, but if you have a baseball stadium, now let's just imagine a basketball stadium, and you put 1 drop of water in there, and then you double it. You double it every minute. And so the second minute, there's 2 drops of water. And then the third minute, there's 4 drops of water pooled together. And then the next minute, there's 8 drops of water. Well, there's just a small little tiny puddle on the floor of the basketball court. But then let's say it takes 60 minutes, a whole hour, for the whole basketball stadium to be completely filled with water. Everyone inside that basketball stadium drowns because they're underwater and there's no air anymore. Well, at what time was the basketball stadium half full with water? If the amount of water doubles every minute. Well, the basketball stadium was half full at 59 minutes. And from 59 minutes to 60 minutes, the whole stadium filled up with water and everyone drowned. Well, what we're seeing right now, where we are right now, collectively, is that our population has exploded exponentially. We've burned fossil fuel exponentially. The temperatures changing on this planet are changing exponentially. And things happen really slowly for a long time, and then they happen really fast. It's like the Hemingway quote of, how did you go broke? And he says, well, slowly at first, and then all of a sudden, something like that. Exponential changes are hard for humans, myself included, to conceptualize and think about. But we're living through that. Just because we can't conceptualize it doesn't mean it's not happening. We're living through it. Collectively, we chose to do this. We chose this pathway for us. And this way of living is going to go away. Maybe humans will go away altogether, will go extinct with the majority of other species that are already going extinct and will go extinct because of the changes that are happening exponentially on the surface of this rock hurling through space. Humans do not have, I think, what is called protagonist defense. There's a term where I think it's called protagonist defense, where like in a story, like in a movie or a TV show or a book, the protagonist has some magic defenses because they're the protagonist, they're able to survive and keep going to the end of the story. Otherwise, the story wouldn't make sense because like you would lose the protagonist, and then you'd have to find a new protagonist. Humans don't have that. we think we do, or a lot of people think we do, but we don't have that. We weren't here all this time. We've only been around 300,000 years, and this Earth has been around for I don't even know how many years. Billion years? 4 billion years? I don't even know. But to think that everything revolves around humans is idiotic, because humans haven't been here all the time, and we probably won't be here all the time from in the future. So, what kind of dream can we have collectively? Some people dream collectively that we are starseed, that we will populate the universe. We will spread through the universe, and we will populate all the inhabitable and semi-inhabitable planets and star systems in the universe. Yeah, I don't think that's happening. We can barely take care of our original planet. There's no way. There's no way. Now, there's something called Fermi's paradox, which is how come we haven't found intelligent life in the universe? Well, that's an interesting thing, because we probably have. It's just not what we think it is. But that's a totally different topic. But Fermi's paradox is well, how come we haven't heard any radio signals from civilizations elsewhere in the universe? And the thought is that once intelligent life creates a civilization, they destroy their planet. The technology heats up the planet through use of energy. And that makes the living conditions deteriorate to the point that the intelligent life that created the technology goes extinct before they can spread through the universe. That's an explanation for Fermi's paradox. There's many different explanations or hypotheticals about it. There's also the idea that there is intelligent life, but they don't communicate with us because they don't want to. Or maybe there is intelligent life out there, but we can't communicate with them because we can't see them or detect them. And then maybe we shouldn't, because if we detect them, then we'd be in danger. But there's all kinds of different ideas. But then there's also all this people interacting with what could be called aliens or angels or demons or jinn or elves or fairies or whatever. Now, this is going way off topic. But I just bring that up because maybe we have been interacting with intelligent life in the universe. It's just not what we think it is. It's something else. But going back to collective dreams. Some people have a collective dream of spreading throughout the universe. And I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that I highly doubt that humans will be able to do that, because we don't have the fossil fuels to do that. We're running out already, just living here. I don't think it's possible. Living on Mars is very hard. Going to Mars is very hard. There's no air on Mars. I mean, there is some air, but it's like 99% CO2, and it's very thin atmosphere. You'd have to walk around in a pressurized suit with oxygen. Where are you going to get the oxygen from? Collective dreams. There is a collective dream that that there will be equality amongst all people and sharing of wealth equally among all people. Well, I think wealth inequality is a huge problem. Billionaires should not exist. But, no, I mean the concept of billionaires should not exist. Something like just the wealthiest several billionaires have like the same amount of money as like a huge percentage of the bottom part of the wealth of our society. I forget the exact number. But I did calculate, if you took the richest man in the world, if you took all the money that that person has, their net worth, and that person lives in America. So let's just say you took all the money of that richest person and then you divided it equally among all the Americans. So there are 340 million Americans. Let's just say you divided the billions of dollars that that person has equally among everyone and then just paid everyone that amount of money. It's $1,000. Well, I mean, $1,000 would be nice, but I thought it'd be more money than that if we divided the richest person's wealth equally among everybody. It's only $1,000. Wow, that doesn't even cover like half of my month's rent. Or a quarter. Well, crap. So what kind of collective dream can we have in this situation where there's 8.2 billion people? Well, I think, well, these are my thoughts on that, and not that anyone's gonna make policy based off of my thoughts, but this is YouTube and I can share my thoughts for free, so I'm gonna share my thoughts. My thoughts are that because we're in this situation of dwindling energy resources and we have 8.2 billion people that need to eat, we need to be thinking in terms of hospice, palliative care. When I was a doctor, there were times when someone had like a brain tumor or metastatic cancer, or they had gone into a vegetative state from a devastating brain injury, like a car accident and traumatic brain injury. And it was clear that their body was not going to function much longer, or their mind, their brain, their body. And they would never have the quality of life that they were going to have before. They would never function the way that they were before. They would never live the kind of life that they wanted to live before that event, whether it's cancer or severe traumatic brain injury or stroke. A stroke is a good example. In those situations, people have a choice. They have a choice to keep going. let's say someone has cancer. They choose to have all these big brain surgeries and radiation and chemotherapy. They're vomiting, they feel nauseous, they feel weak, they're losing strength. If they have cancer, not brain cancer, but like metastatic cancer, they might lose all their hair from the chemotherapy. They're in the hospital all the time. Maybe they have a complication from the surgery and they get a brain infection and they have to go back to surgery to get the infection cleared out, and they're in pain, and they end up spending, let's say they have 6 months to live, and they decide to do everything to try to live longer, but they end up spending that 6 months in the hospital the whole time, having surgeries, being poked and prodded every day, getting blood drawn, not sleeping well with like the beeping in the hospital, all the sounds, and like the patient screaming in the next room, and their family's never there, or they're there sometimes, but there's visiting hours, and that's how they end up spending the last 6 months of their life. That's horrible. I wouldn't want that. If I had diagnosis with incurable cancer that was going to kill me in 6 months, well, assuming that I had already been doing healthy stuff like eating well, being a healthy weight, exercising, being connected with myself and others, but I still got cancer because of, I don't know, microplastics or forever chemicals or just bad luck, whatever. I wouldn't want to spend 6 months in the hospital getting cut open multiple times and poked and prodded with needles and not seeing my friends and family and doggy, and Doobie wouldn't be allowed in the hospital. I'd want to see trees. I want to walk around and smell fresh air. I want to see rivers in the mountains and clouds. Hell, I would just lay down on the grass and watch clouds change shape overhead. That would make me really happy. Not being in the hospital. If I was in a lot of pain, I would want pain medication so that I wouldn't hurt so much as I'm dying. Palliative care, hospice, palliative care is talking about trying to relieve suffering, knowing that life is finite, that we all die at some point. Everyone dies. And sometimes that last part of life can be really tough. And so hospice and palliative care, that part of medicine helps people go through that last part in a way that they don't suffer as much. But it involves choices by the person going through it. They can choose to try to cling to life with every possible procedure and medicine, but in the process, I think a lot of people suffer immensely in the last bits of life they have left. I've seen people choose to just have a 6-pack of beer and go to the beach with their dog. I've also seen people do other things, like try to end their life early, but it didn't go well. There's a lot of different choices that people can make. Well, I think humanity, civilization, now there's two differences there. Humanity is people. Civilization is a way we've chosen to live for about 10,000 years. We have not always lived in a civilization. I think civilization was a big mistake. I think this way of totalitarian agriculture, where we cut down forests to grow immense amounts of food, was a huge mistake. I think it led to a population boom because there's more food available, and it destroyed our biosphere because the forests give life to everything, not just us, but all the other creatures. So I think cutting down the forest was the big mistake. So when I say humanity and civilization, I mean two different things. I think civilization was a mistake. I think humanity is us as people, as human beings, as life forms, and we can make choices of how we live. Well, I think civilization is on the decline, and a lot of people alive, there are a lot of people alive, but there won't be that many people alive in the future, is my understanding of what's happening. And so I think that we're in a situation that is akin to someone diagnosed with incurable cancer with a very short life expectancy. And we can choose to do things different ways. We can choose to pretend like nothing changed. And we can live this life where the majority of people are living in quiet or not so quiet desperation, while a few people hoard wealth, and maybe they feel good that they have power over other people. I don't know. But even if you make things equal for everybody, we're still suffering and lack of resources, as exemplified by the mental exercise of dividing up the wealthiest person's wealth among all of Americans is $1,000. It's not going to change life too much. We could choose to be like the person who does all the surgery and chemotherapy and radiation, but ends up in the hospital all the time suffering for the remaining months of life. I think that would be like trying to fix our situation by using technology to try to save us. Well, technology kind of is part of how we got to where we are now. Technology is not going to save us. Green energy is an illusion. It's not going to save us. In order to build wind energy farms, in order to build nuclear power plants, in order to build solar panels, you need an immense amount of fossil fuels for the concrete, the steel, the mining of the metals and batteries and the lithium, and it's not going to work. Technology will not get us out of this situation. So what I think is that we need to be thinking about this situation in terms of palliative care. There's 8.2 billion people on this planet. We are running out of finite resources. We have already changed the climate, and it's accelerating. And that climate is what? Oh, and we've cut down the forest and poisoned the waters and the earth with chemicals and plastics. And already lots of species have gone extinct. And we will probably make ourselves go extinct. So, knowing that, what is the collective dream? The collective dream of populating the universe, the Milky Way galaxy, is fantasy. The collective dream of using technology to save us is a fantasy. The collective dream that socialism or communism will save us is also a fantasy. Now, it may make our situation, wealth inequality definitely makes things worse. Like severe wealth inequality makes things worse. But complete equality of wealth will not save us either. So that's a fantasy. So what kind of dream can we have? Well, I think I think that dream in my mind is that we understand where we are, and we listen to ourselves. We listen to how we feel. This is not working. We trust ourselves. Trust ourselves that, okay, we are in a situation. It's a predicament. It's a not so good situation, but it's where we are. That's our one reality. All we have is this now, this existence. We can choose what to do with that. I think we could choose to care for each other. There's 8.2 billion people on the planet. We can choose to realize that we're all in this together. There are dwindling resources. That means that a population will have to decrease, whether we want it or not. It's going to decrease. Now, it can decrease naturally through people dying. Naturally, not being murdered. There's already population decline in several modern countries, and I think that trend will accelerate. It'll continue because it's just there's not enough resources for everybody, and I think that's okay. That's just what's going to happen. So I think having a collective dream where we take care of each other through a time of an aging population with less young people and decreasing population overall, and things are more expensive because there's less energy, there's less fossil fuel energy, but finding a way to still enjoy life, to find meaning in life through creation. Music, singing, dancing, telling stories. We can entertain each other through creativity. We don't have to burn fossil fuels to entertain each other. We can find community. We can comfort each other and support each other through this time where many people are probably going to go hungry and have less shelter, less protection from the elements. That would be my collective dream, or my idea for a collective dream. To be aware of what's happening, to take care of each other, to accept the reality of dwindling resources and deteriorating environment and biosphere that are because of our choices collectively as humanity. To let go of civilization. Civilization wrecked a lot of things. We can hold parts of it, but it's going away whether we like it or not. This way of life is not going to stick around. So that's the collective dream I think of. Now, is that what's happening? No. People want to deny that the climate's changing, that they want to deny that there's a dwindling of energy resources. They would rather blame everyone else. They would rather blame people with dark colored skin. They would rather blame billionaires or an imaginary cabal of elite people. They would rather blame some imaginary figure like Satan or something. They'd rather blame anyone, but doesn't, or they would rather deny that it's actually happening. That's a big thing. Denying that any of this is happening. And instead of working together to help each other and support each other through this, they would rather kill each other. They would rather have war and use these dwindling resources to make artillery shells and bullets and missiles and drones with bombs. They would rather kill other humans with the hope that they would be able to secure more resources for themselves, but all the resources are running out regardless. So if we do it that way, we're just going to end up killing each other and running out of resources quicker. So yeah, that's what's happening now. War is ramping up. War's been going on. War's ramping up. People are saying, "Oh, we need to spend more money getting guns and missiles and tanks and fighter jets and drones and satellites because we need to get what's ours." That's just going to lead to more suffering. But I think that I think we just need to listen to ourselves. Listen to ourselves and trust ourselves. I think that's the main point of this long video. Yeah. Well, I hope you have a good day or evening, wherever you are, and I appreciate you. I appreciate that you're alive. I appreciate that I'm alive. And I appreciate that I got to make this video.